for us at Chisago County. And the other person here that would know all of this is our current chairperson, Fran, because he was on the joint county board. And when this all was bubbling up into a problem, it was because of the urban growth of both Wyoming, changing from ag to mostly residential in our area, but the city of Forest Lake was growing, and it's the biggest community in our area, and so that's natural and we expect it. But the problem was that as housing developed and farms were sold for that purpose, the ag ditches were being used for urban stormwater discharging. And so that combination of things, both in Chisago and Washington, was creating a real problem, especially right here. This is just north of where the two counties meet in the county line area. And so we had water coming from Washington County through Forest Lake, developing Forest Lake City. And Forest Lake in our name, actually at that time of conception, was the city. It wasn't the lake of Forest Lake. And so, of course, that's all incorporated as the watershed whole. But we had this area that was part of the water coming from a really complex wetland. It probably shouldn't have been authorized development in my opinion. That was a little bit before I got on the town board there, but it became a housing development, and big lots, of course, because that was required. But we had a lot of water coming from under. It's actually a little bit of Milk County that should have been our district, but was overlooked when the first boundaries were made. And so we have that water coming in under Highway 35, and there's some real big wetlands still there in the west during the wet season, of course. And so we had all of that water coming in from all of those sources through this area, which connects them to the Sunrise. The Sunrise is just north west of this, or northeast, excuse me, of where this pond is. And so we had inputs, and Bixby Park was our first project that we did. This actually was a petition from the county of Chisago to speed this process up. And we work on a upper flow to lower flow, if you will, kind of matrix. And we were doing, we sped up the Bixby Park project, but this one took us this long to get to. And it's kind of a good thing, I think, because we got to experience really high seasons and then also some of the drought that we've had recently. And so we had information from both of those seasons that helped inform that project. So we're very excited about this. Once it gets fully vegetated, about that really other project, we're going to see a lot more trees and shrubs, wildflowers, and all that kind of stuff. But we're seeing waterfowl already. Start to be comfortable in that pond. So okay, that's it for the setup. All yours, Emily.
Jackie, I want to help them.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. On the tour.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. So yeah, like Jackie was saying, there's a long and rich history that kind of leads up to this project. And so we wanted to take a little time and talk about that history and everything that went into this really big project. It's a significant one for the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District, and we think, the Lower St. Croix as a whole. And tough act to follow of Barbara's really awesome video, but I promise we've got some photos and videos pre and post project at the end there. So just to provide that a little context, you have the whole Lower St. Croix Basin, Comfort Lake Forest Lake's kind of right in the middle there. And as Jackie said, there's that county line of Washington and Chisago. So this project is in southern Chisago County. It's right adjacent to the Sunrise River. And it's on a stretch of the Sunrise that's downstream of Forest Lake and upstream of Comfort Lake. And as you all know, the Sunrise River ultimately flows to the St. Croix. And as such, it's the Sunrise River watershed is part of that Lake St. Croix TMDL. It was one of the higher subwatersheds as far as, phosphorus loading and the reduction needed. And here it is here that TMDL, it called for an 8,300 pound per year reduction, 33% phosphorus reduction needed. And so, the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District really studied this sub-watershed very closely because, like Jackie said, it's pretty complicated. It's got, these wetland complexes, but they're ditched, and so they're not functioning naturally. And a big one here that we'll kind of talk about a little bit later is Shallow Pond. Currently, it's operating as a phosphorus sink, but this project protects that so it doesn't just get overloaded and ultimately become a phosphorus source. And there's just multiple land uses in this watershed. There's obviously the downtown sort of urban forest lake. There's residential, commercial, and even rural land uses. So a lot to factor in. And so the diagnostic study, here's all the little monitoring points to target that phosphorus loading and target some projects. And here's a handful of the projects that were identified, the associated phosphorus reductions. Jackie mentioned Bixby Park. That's just upstream there. And in 2020, the total phosphorus loading was 2,000 pounds per year. And the goal was to reduce phosphorus loading by 200 pounds per year. So getting it to a stable, natural phosphorus load of 1,800 pounds per year. You can see the majority of loading comes from that Sunrise River, but still a fair amount from the Little Comfort Lake side, which is a different tributary, and that direct drainage area as well. And just to provide a little bit more context, here's the boundaries of the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District, and the general flow paths within our district. And so you can see it all kind of makes its way to Comfort Lake and then out into the Sunrise, and then that moves north and then east over to the St. Croix River. And here's just some of the projects, water quality projects in our watershed. There is a ton more if you factor in, cost share projects and kind of smaller scale ones, but this map is just some of those larger ones, capital projects. And here is, our tracking of progress toward our overall district-wide phosphorus reduction goals. And, thanks to, state dollars like the Clean Water Fund, we've been able to implement a lot of these projects and achieve a lot of, measurable reductions in phosphorus reductions, but as well as sediment and other benefits as well. And just kind of a quick plug, kind of a celebration, our ultimate goal, like a lot of the other partners here, is delisting impaired waters. And so we've got the 6 Lakes TMDL in our little area, and we're tracking really closely. Bone Lake is slated to come off the impaired waters list this spring, which we're really excited about and planning some celebrations for that in the spring. And then we're hoping that the rest of these lakes, Comfort, School, Shields, Moody, and Little Comfort, won't be too far behind in the upcoming years.
Emily, could you go back to the previous slide just for a minute? I just wanted to explain that double bar on the right-hand side a little bit more. We have always had standards higher than the states. States are minimum standards typically, and so we wanted to make sure that we built in enough resiliency so that as the climate kept getting worse, we were talking about climate impacts 20 years ago when the district started, and so we decided that's what we wanted because our citizenry and all of our public meetings wanted to get back as close as possible to pre-development. Most of this damage is caused by humans, and so we wanted to get back to as close to pre-development so we had cushion in case things get really bad. We would still have good quality water. So that's what that's all about.
Thank you, Jackie. Good context. So getting back to the Sunrise River project, there's a lot of things that went into choosing this one. Multiple kind of years of monitoring and targeting studies identified this as a potential project, really large phosphorus load from the urbanized Forest Lake area and the Himes Lake drainage ditch results in an 89 pound per year phosphorus reduction for the Sunrise River. and 51,000 pounds per year of sediment reduction, as well as nitrogen, heavy metals, adding flood storage, and improving that habitat as well. Some other factors that made this a good project for us was that this was tax forfeited land that's owned by the watershed district. It made sense in sequence with, we had already done the Bixby Park project, and a few other urban projects in Forest Lake upstream of it. And throughout the project, I'll get into this more as well, is it's had a good cost benefit in terms of the pounds of phosphorus removed. And I'll talk more about the budget as we go on. And so I want to take some time and talk about, Jackie had mentioned the history of this project, and it starts even before 2012, but it was kind of first identified in this study in 2012, and as a result of that Chisago County petition. And even before that, the watershed district did a lot of data gathering for about 10 years after it was established. And so identified in 2012, implementing other projects upstream in the watershed before getting to this one. And then in 2019, the watershed district applied for a Clean Water Fund grant. At that time, we thought this was a $600,000 project. We spent a lot of time coordinating with the neighboring landowners. We evaluated a few different project options, which could have potentially utilized some of the surrounding properties. And that took some time. Ultimately, we decided on a design that would remain entirely with the watershed district's land. And so, that landowner coordination took some time. COVID obviously set us back a little bit. We completed the feasibility in 2022. And by that time, the estimated project cost was suddenly up to 1.1 million. This was due to the feasibility study unearthed some on-site conditions, the peat depth that presented some construction challenges and raised the price. Construction prices, such as steel, had increased significantly in that time. And we also, despite this, we did have the opportunity to expand the project scope in order to maximize the project outcomes, achieve about 20% more pollutant reductions than we had originally proposed back when we wrote this grant in 2019. And while keeping the project footprint contained to district-owned property. And so the feasibility study estimated construction cost range of $800,000 to $1 million, and that's just construction alone. It was at this time that we adjusted our cost estimates and we applied for Lower St. Croix funding. And then we proceeded with the bidding, and the low bid was 1.3 million, or $500,000 higher than the low range estimate from the feasibility study. We knew that the construction was going to be higher than we anticipated in 2019, but now it was even higher than the feasibility study had estimated. We looked at the water quality returns on it and the cost benefit, and even at this significantly higher cost, the project still had a very good cost benefit. And we had this opportunity to treat even more than originally conceived. If we were already going to be out there, digging up anyway, we should maximize the returns achieved by this project. And so we wanted to move forward, provided that we could get the funding, and more on that on the next slide. But back to just the timeline. Construction occurred just this last winter. Site restoration over the course of this 2023 growing season. And we ran into more unexpected issues during construction. There were some unmarked utilities out on the site. That resulted in some additional engineering time and staff time to work around the issue with the contractor and the utility companies, but we were able to figure it out, and we were able to complete the project on our proposed timeline. And in fact, we have this on our October 26th board meeting agenda for the Comfort Lake Forest Lake to close this project out. So we're really excited. It's been kind of a journey. There was a lot of twists and turns, but still able to stay on track and get this closed out this month. And so here is an overview of the various funding sources. We had started with this competitive grant, and we thought that was going to be, an 80-20 split when we originally conceived of the budget. we came to the Lower St. Croix partnership asking for WBIF in the amount of 300,000, 449. And we had looked at some other grant sources before that as well. But the timing was really difficult for some of those larger grants. We weren't able to complete, if we went for some of those, like a Lessard Sam's sort of large grant, that timing wouldn't have worked out with the ending of the Clean Water Fund grant. But some of the smaller grants, like Conservation Partners Legacy, the total project cost was too high to be eligible for that. We looked at a few different options, but ultimately came to the Lower St. Croix. And the district was also able to utilize a federal Section 319 Small Watershed Focus Grant to help pay for this project as well. So it ultimately ended up that the watershed district would bear about 45% of the local cost. Typically, we try, with a Clean Water Fund competitive grant, it would be about 80-20. But we decided that it was still worth moving forward with this project, and we were able to finance a lot of that local portion with a Clean Water Partnership loan, and that's really helped us keep this on a timeline to get it done this year. So ultimately, total project cost of 1.62 million. We have an estimated 30-year lifespan for it, and then just factoring in some maintenance costs, kind of an estimate over that time. Total lifetime cost of 1.6 million. And so that total cost benefit of $625 per pound removed, which is still pretty good. We try to aim for something below $1,000 per pound. And so here is just here is a concept rendering of it, and you're going to see some images, and they aren't going to look exactly the same, but this this is just sort of an artistic rendering. Here's Highway 61 here. Here's a ditch. It flows this way. And so you'll see that there's multiple ponds, and they are strategically placed that way in order to treat that sediment loading. And then also different kinds of vegetation restoration, wetland sort of habitat that's going to be growing in over the coming years. So here is a picture of the construction. Here they're installing this water level control weir to get the water out of the ditch and into the wetland complex. Here's Highway 61 there. And then here's sort of that same area, but just from a different vantage point, just this past July after construction. You can see that weir and that open water over there. And then here's an aerial during construction. You can see kind of the multiple different phases of the pond, and it all gets filled in here. This was just taken in September, but there is still those varying depths and kind of that sequencing of the ponds there. So here is just a aerial video during construction. You can see that Highway 61 northbound car going there, and all the different construction haul roads. We had to construct in winter under the frozen conditions to get this big sort of heavy machinery in there to do that excavation and reshaping of everything. And then here is just this past September. You could see everything's kind of starting to grow back, and we hope that it'll grow back even better over the next few years.
Just add something here, Emily.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that slide that we're seeing here, or this image right now, you can see those smaller ponds. Those are sediment drops for getting as much sediment out of the water as possible. And then the big one, of course, is more flow oriented. So when you speak floods, more can be held back and overburdening the system. Sunrise river system. One of the big things here that is so different, and this is a perfect example of what happened, with all of this flowage coming down through Sunrise, through all these old connections, there was a lot of sediment reaching Compass And that's not true of any of the other races. They get about 4,000 to 5,000 pounds a year. We were getting 45,000. That's right on the north end of the lake, right, really close, maybe about 4 houses close to the exit that goes into the Sunrise River. And that's why Sunrise, one of the big reasons, as mentioned, is that a lot of that sediment is coming through this system through our area. And so this is going to tremendous reduction in sediment going down the Sunrise, getting into Comfort, and then that will reduce the sediment load going down to the Sunrise. So we're very proud of that. And then of course, we put, it's going to have a big impact on that target.
And then here's one more aerial video, kind of closer, now heading south over that open water area. And then here you can see that ditch that, we're diverting that water from and treating more. And then this is my last slide, just some, contact information. Are there any questions?
Questions for Emily or Jackie? When you talk about that much sediment, obviously, Emily mentioned a 30-year life expectancy. Is the life expectancy related to the amount of sediment? Is there annual maintenance costs related to sediment removal? What's,
Yeah, Emily probably has a better handle on that than mine, but yes, to answer your question on a global level, that's exactly what happens. There has to be some maintenance in order to extend the life. Doesn't mean this is going to die and we're going to need you're going to have to put money into it to keep it active and working like that's not like just like a house. You got to maintain everything about it, and you got to maintain the stuff.
anything to add on that, Emily?
Yeah, just that certainly factors into the project lifespan. And one of the things Comfort Lake Forest Lake does is post-project monitoring. We do the pre-project monitoring to identify the project, but then afterward, taking those water quality samples to ensure that the project is functioning and it's being effective. And so that we'll be doing that on kind of a rotating basis, not necessarily every year, but definitely keeping an eye on it and doing cleanouts or maintenance as needed.
And then 45% was covered by the levy, and that levy is split between Washington County and Chisago County.
Yeah.
What is your typical amount of levy, percent of levy that comes from Washington, and what percent comes from Chisago?
Changing, honestly, as the housing grows in Wyoming. But it's now, I think it's around, isn't it, Emily, about 75, 25, maybe
Yeah.
7, or 26, something like that. But it's hovering around that. It's higher. Washington was 80% at first, but there's a lot more commercial in Washington County. And so when the levy increases, it impacts the property owners in Chisago at a higher level because it's all houses. There's business now and then, but not the kind of commercial growth that Washington has. And this is an opportunity. I'll take a few more minutes if you don't mind, but in the city of Forest Lake, our goals are very important in water service, very important. And we haven't quantified that yet, but it's something that we're talking about as a board. So going back and putting numbers to the impact that having these rules have meant. In my opinion, we couldn't be as far along in our goals and to have that. That was important to put in place right at the very beginning, because you're correcting past mistakes in your project, but you want to stop current and future mistakes. And the only way to do that is to have those rules and enforce them. And the city has been just a tremendous part of Forest Lake. And the businesses have to give a shout out to them too. We had big businesses that came in and put underground treatment facilities below their buildings. And both of them did it without the mask. They knew what the parameters were. And one of the big rules, of course, is that you have to treat the water on your own property. So you're not adding it to flow that's going downstream anymore. And in the business area, of course, we do have a rule that says rule of treating on your own property to a fund for stormwater control. And so a lot of folks do that, but these two big businesses put in these underground systems that are just working beautifully. So it takes commitment, from everybody that you're working with, doing the right thing. So the education is so critical too. And I think that's, we're really lucky. We have a great team that has experience, 10 years at least, 15 maybe, experience on doing that outreach to make people understand their part in this whole water business. That is what you mentioned. Oh, yeah. The one of them is a new condo building, right? You should come in from the north side of town. Mallard's, most people know Mallard's, that restaurant is lower level, or the street level. And they did it with help from our technical. But we had a new business come into a business area for us that is south of Walmart. Mm-hmm. And we had looked at it as possible property that put, maybe a natural area and passed on it. And this business came in and without any encouragement from our people, decided that they were going to do that. Right. And that cost was about $1 million. It was another part of the show. So yeah, it is impressive.
Other questions about the project? Well, thank you, Jackie and Emily. Appreciate the update on that.
Thanks, Emily.
Then we can move into the Trout Brook Stream restoration. Matt leading us on that, or?
I will.
Okay. Super.
Not now. No, thank you. Okay.
It's probably good if we don't give Matt too much airtime.
All right. There you go, John. You want my mouse? There you go.
I don't want you to interrupt stuff.
I know. It's probably better, right? Plus, you can actually see what's on the screen there, and I can't.
Right. Which we go and look at.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Happy to be here to give an update on the Trout Brook project.
Is it going to hear it from that far away? Oh, no, it should.
I should. So close. There you go.
A little bit of context. I'm going to spend most of the time focusing on pictures of different parts of the project, partly because the project is still ongoing. But for us, the story starts with really at the start of Minnesota, right? So logging, transitioning land from natural cover to farm cover. Back to that late 1800s, early 1900s, Trout Brook watershed, dramatically changed. And kind of serial ways, right? Logged and then farmed. That watershed is actually doing a pretty good job on its own of recovery now. So it's largely transitioned at this point to rural residential, hobby farms, much more stable land cover types. But we're still dealing with that past legacy. So when that mass land coverage started, just massive amounts of sand and sediment washed off the upper parts of the Trout Brook watershed and landed in this valley bottom down at Afton LSC area and Afton State Park. Although the watershed itself has largely stabilized, and we continue to work in the upper part of the Tropic watershed, we're still seeing a lot of impacts in the lower part of the district, lower part of the Tropic watershed, with severe bank erosion, severe bed erosion, and because of ongoing management practices, a lack of fish habitat, which for us is a major focus of the project because this is a trout stream in the Twin Cities metro area. But as water comes, cursor show
I can see it.
as water
I don't
comes
know if they can
down
see it.
through the upper part of the state park, hits the ski area, which until we started this work 5 or 6 years ago was mostly a ditch. So you can imagine you take a trout stream and put it in a ditch through a commercial land use. You get a lot of very negative impacts on that stream. So the water picks up speed, flows through the ski area, ditch, just continually scouring that channel bottom, those bank edges. It carries all that sediment down right into the St. Croix River. You can see the delta here. That's all sediment picking up from that lower tropical watershed. And of course, because of how that channel is constructed, we don't have pools, ripples, and runs that you typically see in healthy trout streams. So our goal since we started this work back in 2012, 2014, when we consolidated or finished our consolidation with the former Lower St. Croix Watershed Management Organization, is to work towards recreating natural stream functions. So turn that ditch back into a stream that will reduce sediment and phosphorus loading to the St. Croix, restore those habitat types, once again turn the stream into something that can house trout throughout their entire life cycle. And we've been doing that through 3 different phases of work. Phase 1, upstream in the state park, mostly handwork, removing obstructions in the stream, remove head cuts, are causing a lot of that channel bottom erosion. Where possible, trying to get benches carved out in the floodplain so the stream can get back up onto the floodplain, so dissipate energy, get rid of some of that sediment rather than carrying it downstream. Some of that work was successful, some of it failed. We actually worked with DNR on some of that work. They had their crews come in and do some bank stabilization right along some cuts in the upper part of the state park. The summer after they did that work, we had a 6-inch rain event, blew all of that out. But where we recreated the connections to the floodplain, we had vegetation growing, those held on. So that's a successful practice upstream and one that we're trying to continue downstream. Phase 2, which we completed in 2019, 2020, took the worst part of the channel, the ditch, through the Afton Alps ski area, which was right through the middle of the parking lot, and rebuilt the channel around the parking lot in one of the oldest stores. So instead of a 2-stage ditch through the Afton Alps parking lot, we have a trout stream around. Along with that, we removed one of 2 primary fish obstructions, which was a pair of perched culverts right here. That's gone. Now there's a box culvert downstream end of that phase 2 area. An oversized box. So I think that one was a 14 by 16 foot box, buried in the substrate and filled the bottom of the box covered with rocks and boulders to create that natural stream bottom through the culvert. So you can carry the flow, obstructing it, and fish can move through it. And that's something we did in phase 2 as well. We'll get some pictures of that in a moment. Phase 3, which is funded in part by this group, has 3 different parts. One is what was a remaining set of perched culverts, so another fish barrier, and also because of how they're situated, it obstructed flow, but when flow got high enough, that water shot through the perched culverts and caused worse erosion downstream. We worked within the remaining straightened section of Afton Alps. So we're pinched between the bluff of Afton State Park and the Afton Alps infrastructure, the ski area right here. Rather than doing what we would normally do and what we did downstream, where we recreate the meandering stream channel. We didn't have space to do that. So we actually used a stream form that you see more on the North Shore, which is step pools. So you have kind of these series of step pools where rather than water moving back and forth to get rid of energy, it splashes down into pools to set energy and also creates high flow. And then, of course, bottom part, which you'll see most of our pictures of, is more that traditional meandering. All right, so that's kind of big context down to current phase of work. As Craig mentioned, this work is ongoing. We had hoped to have it all complete this year. The construction is, but because we were set back with starting construction because of the flooding in the St. Croix River, which the most downstream 200 feet of our project site is in the St. Croix floodplain. Because of that late spring flood, we couldn't start construction when we had hoped to. And of course, we went into drought throughout most of the summer, so we didn't get as good a take on seed as we hoped. So we're going to let that grow in, get through this fall, through early spring, some of that vegetation take better hold before we put water into it. Just give it as much stability as we can. And now I'm just going to add only pictures to figure out. So this is just the different parts of phase 3. So this is those 2 remaining perched culverts that are upstream of the ski area property. So this is water flowing out of the state park down through this stream section, right along the Afton ski area. It has these 2 perched culverts, so water couldn't go anywhere, just ponded. So it holds the water, which then trout stream is back, it warms up, so harms your habitat. And then of course, it's high enough, water shoots through those culverts, which are undersized, and the water's flowing out. Remove those culverts and replace it with a large box culvert, same as with phase 2. So it's oversized, buried, and you backfill with rock and boulders. So instead of those 2 perched culverts, which cause problems hydraulically and with fish passage, we now have what is more or less a natural stream, as close as we can get without bridge, which would of course be much more expensive than a precast box culvert. So what that looks like, this work was completed in September. See the stream comes down, where possible, we get some connection with floodplain upstream, where it was just sand before, backfill with large boulders, and very sized rock to create that natural stream bottom, and then that carries through the box culvert. So it's no longer an obstruction. So this is looking at before the project. This is that straightened section through the Afton Elks property. It's kind of wedged between the bluff on the right side of the first picture and the ski area on the left side. And you also just all sand. That water scours the stream channel. It leaves the sand behind, just buries all the natural stream channel or stream different types, the pools, the ripples, and the runs. And again, here we were limited in what we could do. So it's kind of that more step pool environment we were going for, which are just very minor changes, right? Manipulating grades of the stream. You're recreating those natural functions, which you can kind of see. I can see my cursor. There's kind of a V-shaped log at kind of the bottoms of some of these, which you kind of pick out. And what that does is it sets that elevation of the stream bottom so it can't keep cutting, and it focuses water where we want it. So in this case, right in the middle of the stream at the apex of that VE plane. So the water will maintain its elevation coming over that grade control structure and keep scouring out of the pool. So recreate the natural stream features. And of course, dissipate energy. So we have fewer problems downstream. So this is before the project in that lower part of Afton Elks or Afton State Park. Again, a lot of sand, a lot of cutting, which you can see this lower left picture. So the water would come out of the ski area underneath this trail bridge, take a sharp left-hand turn in the state park, just continually scour out this bank. We were losing feet off of that bank every year. Just topsoil and sand. Maybe 300-400 yards from directly upstream of the St. Croix River. So it's just dumping it all in the river every single day. So this is where we do that more typical re-meandering. Which doesn't look like much when you're building. So it's a lot of root wads which were harvested on site and we cleared the wood space. So we saved all that wood went back into the stream channel and brought in a lot of rock. Again, anchoring in stream elevations where you need them, stream bends where you need them, restoring stream functions. So if between those anchoring points, the stream can move over time and act like a stream, as we know. So what some of that work looks like. So the root wads end to support and anchor in those bends. See the ripple structures anchoring in channel bottoms and channel elevations. And then the soil lips on top of it. So it's a fabric goes back over it, seeded and planted. We've now planted shrubs and trees throughout the space as well. That vegetation is what creates the stable system. So we're anchoring in these points. Vegetation over time is what's going to hold. Which is why it's important to us to let that come in before we switch flow over to the current channel. So it looks like after some of that imported material is buried, looks like even less. You can see any of it. You see that in this case, almost exaggerated sinuous curve. So it's just working back and forth, getting rid of that energy so it can't scour out floodplain. Aerial shot of that lower piece. So this is actually the old stream channel. Comes in right here, hits that bank, makes a sharp left. So we built this new section of channel completely offline, getting all that increased distance to dissipate that energy. And this is the piece that we're letting established people. So the work's all done. We just want to give that seed a chance to take next spring and early summer. Of those shrubs and trees that went in this fall, hopefully start to grow a little bit before that flow comes in. And then sometime next year, I'm sure Angie will be down there with a video camera to watch the
I'm going to bring a drone.
break through that berm.
Drones need to come.
Of course, another shot of the St. Croix directly downstream. So again, it's restoring that natural stream system, reduce sloping to the St. Croix, restore habitat, which we are well on our way to. So the DNR routinely surveys fish populations in Trout Brook. Before the start of any of the phases of work, they would periodically find a handful of fish throughout the entire system. After just phase 2, which removed 1 of 2 fish barriers, and the second was removed as part of phase 3, they went out and did a stream survey. So this would have been spring of 2022. There are sections of Trout Brook upstream of the phase 2 area where they're finding over 1,000 fish. So we are reducing sediment loading and phosphorus loading to St. Croix. We're making huge changes in the habitat.
Native population.
Brown trout coming in, probably the king, also possibly Valley Creek. There's a couple of less small. This is, I just put this up here to show kind of what we're going for vegetation wise. This is actually looking at phase 2. So this is with 4 years of growth. So this is what we're trying to get to with that floodplain to really anchor in that stream and hold that soil in place as the floods come up and dissipate energy across the flood. Won't get there completely before we move flow over, because we have to move flow over next year, but we'll get a lot. Yep, that is here.
With the recent rains, Matt, are you getting some regrowth now? Is what the better?
Yes, our restoration ecologist has been down there a lot. I think he likes hanging out in state parks and some areas. We all do. But he finally started seeing a lot more. We started getting kind of those more routine half-inch rains. Kind of that's helped a lot. And of course, oh, go ahead.
Question about the Hampton Oaks, parking lot. Do they throw in a lot of salt? I mean, what happened?
Yeah, so their primary parking lots are gravel, and they do not see. And we actually are working with them. They came up, so our office, Southwestern Watershed District office, Woodbury Public Works. So we have access to all of the city of Woodbury's GIC equipment, all of their staff. We actually had the Acton Pulp staff come up and visit us about 2 weeks ago. We're the Public Works facility at City of Woodbury, see all the equipment, talk about different methods for removing ice. They took a lot away from that. Actually, I think one of the simplest, cheapest things they took away that's probably going to be one of the most effective for them. Instead of continually scraping their primary gravel lot and putting down grit, chicken grit, just go buy some clean, washed rock, put it down where you have ice. When the ice melts, the gravel just sits on the gravel lot. That was just kind of like a light bulb moment for them. We've been doing this for 40 years, so there's so much. But those are ongoing. Acton Oaks has been a great partner. Vail bought Acton Oaks about 6 or 8 years ago now. They've been great to work with. From the very start, they came in from Colorado, sat down. Our goals were with the stream and what they support us. They've given us access to all these different parts of their property. They donated easements. Now there is a conservation easement covering the floodplain of Trout Brook all the way through their property. The state park.
One of my questions is anything that the ski resort do to enhance to accelerate the damage that was happening? I mean, is natural or is what caused that to start being?
All those past sins, as you mentioned with your project, it's we did so much to this stream the last 150 years.
Okay.
They all compound.
And it finally did break.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Of course, we have a lot of interest because not just Tony from our office like spent time in the state park. The Clean Water Council came down and visited us about a month ago at this point. Seemed to enjoy it, although we were their first stop. We're like at the end of the day.
They came and visited yours as well. Yeah.
And of course, we are, because it is such a visible spot, we are creating quite a bit of signage. So these are actually 2 signs that were put up with phase 2. The same 2 signs go up with phase 3 along the user trailers. Kind of promoting the project, why we're doing it, funding partners, hopefully get people more engaged in trouble. Should be a lot.
I think what you're doing to create them naturally and really, first time I saw that was up north on a watershed association tour, and they were using it in the north at Fargo to create the blocks, to create those pull back areas that we needed them in, but they also I don't think they had to plan, but it became obvious to them that they were not interrupting the migration of fish species up there. Because created these slow areas where the fish could go upstream. So brilliant! I love it. Love it. We've been struggling with what to do with sunrise. doing houses? Did you have to get any easement permissions?
No, so it's state park kind of on both ends of our project site. National did donate that conservation cover the street throughout the property, but it's all. We had access to all of it, but they all have been.
Refresh my memory as to the cost of the project we participated in and how much we had authorized.
Yeah, so I get a little confused because of the various phases. I think phase 3 is going to end up being with engineering permitting, it's going to be about $1 million. About 350 of that is from this group. Another 365,000 of that is from the start saves for greening. All the phases combined are around $2 million. About $1 million of that. So half grants, half.
Other questions?
I just like to say, two very good presentations. Thank you to all of you who put the preparation in, and great way to share information, and just as the board members, we, make decisions on these projects and funding, and this is great to see the results. That's wonderful.
Because of the creating policy and everything
Yeah.
else.
Fran, do you have can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Kevin Chapdelaine from South Washington. Nice to see your face, sir. Glad you're back in the game. John, could you, and I'm putting you on the spot, do you know the numbers of sediment and phosphorus and fish count numbers, some of the stuff that worked out well for us in this project off the top of your head?
Phase 3, I think we're around 150 pounds of phosphorus per year that we're retaining in those stream banks rather than dumping it in the St. Croix, along with, I'm sure it's 150 to 175 tons per year of sediment, along with that phosphorus.
100 tons of sediment. Wow.
150 to 100
Yeah.
per year?
It's
That's why I wanted him to say this, everybody.
now just stream banks right by the St. Croix. So
Yeah.
you're losing feet of bank every year and dumping it right in. And then the fish count numbers that gone from 5 fish throughout the entire stream to sections of the stream with over 1,000.
You're so close, there's nothing to stop that from fitting the same part.
Yeah, the bottom part of our project is in the St. Croix.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin. You used to join us in person. I don't know. It's just too far to drive now or what?
I guess I'm getting a little lazy, but Fran, I'll come up and see you maybe for the next meeting, I promise.
Sounds good. Any other questions on Trout Brook?
I see Matt Moore's got his hand up.
Yeah, Fran, you'll appreciate this, and Jim, you'll appreciate this, but there are worse places to work in the morning than in a state park. And I can tell you that I did try to, I took a bit out of the apple last week or the week before, Kevin, I think it was, from the DNR, and their 20 million they have for PFCs, for natural resource projects. And I just told them, I said, you guys sit down there and you never built anything, you don't know how to do it, and you could have paid for this whole project.
Good point. Appreciate all the administrative work that goes into these projects too. Any other comments on these two projects?
John did a great job.
Good.
On the project.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to be part of both of these projects. And again, hopefully these will be part of our story that we share with all of the people that we talked about earlier as well. We'll move into our Valley Branch Watershed District Plan Amendment requests, and I believe I saw John Hanson on earlier. John, are you going to lead us through this?
Yes, I can. Mr. Chair, committee members, you might remember a year ago, you approved a plan amendment to the overall Lower St. Croix River Comprehensive Plan. And that plan amendment was to include 2 water bodies of Valley Branch Watershed District as priority water bodies in the overall plan. After the policy committee approved that amendment, it went off to all the partnership members, and all of the current members have also approved that. And then we asked Bowser, what is the steps, or what's the process to formally approve the amendment? And they had never had an amendment request for a one watershed, one plan before, so it took them a while to come up with the process. And now they have developed that process, and they're recommending that Valley Branch follow the minor amendment procedure. And in doing that, Valley Branch Watershed District would send out a request for comments to all the plan review agencies, give them 30 days to comment on the plan amendment, and then it'd be up to this group, the Lower St. Croix River Policy Committee, to have a public hearing on that amendment. So the request before you this afternoon is to authorize or approve scheduling a public hearing for your January 2024 meeting to hear for the amendment on the Lower St. Croix Partnerships Plan.
Very good. Any questions for John on the request here?
I'd like to make that motion.
Do we have a date for that meeting?
I
That is
believe
January, if we continue doing it on the 4th Monday, then January 24th.
Okay.
22nd, January 22nd of 2024.
Then the motion would be to schedule a public hearing for January 22nd. There's a second, I'll say. We got a motion second. Schedule the public hearing for the plan amendments. Any discussion? And we'll go ahead and vote on scheduling the public hearing. All in favor of that, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Our 2023 supplemental funding request. Who's leading us on this?
I can try to, and then I'll kind of look over there at Craig, or do you want to explain it better than me? Okay, how about you and Michelle take it away then?
About 2 weeks ago, so Bowser notified the non-metro partners that there was an excess of about 7.75 million in 2023 funds. This is non-metro, because the metro funds were all used out using our 2022 and 23 program. There's about 7.75 million non-metro funds that were available still. I think there is about somewhere between 33 and 35 million that was kind of down to the non-metro funds. So there's availability where we can apply, but the deadline to apply for those funds is January 8th. We work together as partners. Right away, the steering committee, we all agreed on that we can apply for those of the non-metro. We can share that baseline. So it's a good thing we can go baseline as a non-metro portion. So we work with our Bowser Board Conservation to make the application. As I say, that is the Bowser Board Conservation has to sign off on our request. And so what we're looking for today is basically a thumbs up from this policy committee to allow our authorized staff to work together to submit a proposal by January 8th deadline. You would then find out on January 16th, the following Tuesday, what Bowser's recommendations will be. So basically, if it's more than $7.75 million requested by all partners, basic one water plans, they will use the existing formula that was used when those funds were distributed back in 2023, 2022. And at that point, we received $471,000. And we were the third or fourth smallest amount, to put it in perspective for everybody who was department. But at that point, we would come back as a steering committee, we would meet hopefully prior to the January 22nd meeting, to bring a recommendation to this organization. My feeling through our joint powers agreement that would be a work plan amendment. If you secure those funds, we come back to policy for recommendation, then bring that forward to our long-term report. That would be a good work plan. Like to add?
Yeah, just say, so the way that the funds would get, so the request was, approved and receive your allocated funding, it would go not as a new grant, but it would be an addition amendment to the existing FY, 23 grant that had those funds, to your existing.
And what would be our deadline for spending those funds?
December 31st, 2025. We'd have about 20 months, 20 months. And administratively, you like that process, don't we? Yes, and we can include it in the process.
It's for the administration of the industry.
Correct.
Well, I found out about this. But at the Metro Mod meeting, the watershed was last week. We had Marcy from Salzburg there, and I asked her what caused this. You know, was it that other one watershed plans aren't implementing state implementation states what we are, or what? And so it's a combination of that. People not requesting funds, and it was later one watershed plans that were just formed didn't get ready to when they expected to delay in that. So I would encourage you to ask for any residue funds that aren't distributed, because we can put them to use. We've got a very structured process in place, and we can certainly ask our partners if you have projects that you're ready for but are delaying because of funding, and accelerate some of our projects.
So we have this week, we have a steering committee meeting scheduled for Wednesday of this week. We have that $5 million request from the.
But, well, then add that little time, their funds exceeding that amount.
We have to follow the report conservation sign off approval before we can make that.
No, I understand, but there's always a process. But don't let that go
Correct.
unused.
So Craig was looking for a thumbs up. Any
My
objections?
thumbs up.
Doesn't sound like we have any objections to submittal. I think, obviously, what you say at
1.5 million so far. We will be meeting on Wednesday to have a discussion. I expect to have a couple meetings that will work through this. I'm guessing Matt will even have to form that. So maybe not. No, anyway, but we will plan to bring this back to the board in January.
When will this money be available?
Good thing it'll be pretty fast, but we'll have to, our organizational wise, we'll have to go through this board and a recommendation by the local board, which do have 60 days, they can ask you to hold that act at February board meeting. And hopefully we know about the grant to March 2020.
This is currently appropriated money.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and I'll just, board members, I'll just add, this is something first time this happened, and it's also something we don't know if will happen again, and this is, a process that internally together, how we want to try to utilize these funds, and, the decision was made to try to mitigate the, non-competitive process, not a competitive process, right, with the dollars upfront, so that was sort of some of the thinking behind that, and I also feel there's a lot of uncertainty on how much as a partnership you would get when you request. And so some of that will be in the discussion of local staff to say, okay, yeah, we can get all of this. This is what what we would do, but we also need to have contingency for what if it comes back and we have $200,000. Kind of where will that go into the work plan? So that'll be.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it strikes me that if you could give the feedback from this group, I think we would say, this is good to keep that money moving and do it in an administratively streamlined way as possible and follow the plan that does have in place. Very nice.
And, the video and the reports today show the quality of work this group has been overseeing. Share that as we make our requests.
So everybody's in favor of asking for more money.
We'll move into our Lower St. Croix work plan approval.
Okay. Think so. Okay, so we have a 2024 annual work plan, which has been developed, and the idea behind this is instead of having this group approve the WBIF grant, that we would have a comprehensive annual work plan that is what we are working off of. So this was included in your packets. Laura, I know that you're here and you didn't want to be the one to lead this, but is there anything you want to say since you're the one who wrote this plan for our group?
Hi, sure. Yeah, the idea behind this plan is that every other year you would have a very large comprehensive plan that would be probably a little bit more detailed and mirror the watershed-based implementation funding work plan. And this is not that. This is a more high-level work plan that basically just mirrors half of a biennium from your large table in your implementation plan. So table 5.1 is the great big table from your comprehensive plan, and that table, the implementation is broken up into bienniums. So this is reflecting half of a biennium of what you would plan to do in 2024. So there's the estimated expenses, the estimated outputs are directly from that table 5.1, just cut in half where they made sense. And for the most part, you know, some of the bigger estimated expenses are generally appropriate where you're sharing services and so forth. But obviously there's a lot of different funding sources for the work that gets done in here in this plan. That's shown just with an asterisk at the bottom of the summary table there, that the funding sources include WBIF funds, other grants, local sources, the soil health grant you're working under right now. So first couple of pages is just a summary of everything that comes below, which is taken right out of table 5.1. And then also included in this document is all of the policies, the calendar of work, your joint powers agreement that are being utilized to implement the work and prioritize the work and to fund the work. All of these different policies, staff thought it was a good idea just to keep all of those documents in one place and in front of the policy committee and their partners in one place. So I believe Craig or Angie, correct me if I'm wrong, but the work plan does need to be approved by the local partners as well, according to your JPA.
Mm-hmm.
We have to go local partners, we can move forward the next board meeting.
Yep. So this would be a policy committee recommendation for your local boards to approve is what you're voting on tonight.
Please have that vote by myself.
If it helps, I can just kind of verbally run through what a couple of the things are under these four big categories. Implementation actions for agricultural lands, looking at 200 acres of non-structural BMPs that improve soil health, 412 pounds of total phosphorus reduction through structural best management practices. 5 irrigation systems upgraded with smart technology installed, and 10 to 20 upgraded SSTS in sensitive areas. Under the developed and developing lands, looking at 2 developments retrofitted with infiltration, recharge, or reuse projects, 20 pounds total phosphorus reduction. 15% of all cities have staff certified at smart salt training. Working on it. 10 irrigation systems with smart technology installed, 10 to 20 upgraded SSTS, 10 shoreline restoration projects, 1 LGU with new wetland protections, 1 easement or acquisition in a priority lake shed, 1 landlocked basin analyzed. Under ecosystem services, 1 stream restoration project, boom. 100 acres restored wetlands, 2.5% increase in watercraft inspections for AIS, 2 new boat launches with AIS signage, 5 Phragmites infestations removed, 1 LGU with new shoreline protections, 2 new landscape designs for climate resiliency, 100 acres protected through easement or acquisition, 100 acres managed with new landscape stewardship plans. And then finally, implementation for prioritization and analysis, looking at doing 3, let's see. I know, I was like, is there a way I can stop that? Can I mute everyone? Perhaps not. 3 sub-watershed analyses for priority lakes, 3 sub-watershed analyses for priority streams, 1 lake analyzed for internal loading, and implementation of robust water monitoring programs by all partners. So you can see that this is a little bit different than what we've brought to this group before, in that it's things that locals are doing as well. Okay. That's all. Yes, Craig?
Our goal next year then would be to bring forward an annual plan, trying to get away from just a WDI plan, for look at the government annual plan. Next year, our goal is to go out and find it right at that time. Would be to have an annual plan that encompasses this WDI work plan. Also, the grants, the soil health grant, the supplemental funds that we're working on. That one overarching annual plan that we're all, so that we're not going to come into a different work plan. That'll start next year, like you said, with biannual.
So what we're looking for from this group is approval of the work plan, and then that would go to each of our governing boards based on our structure. We'll recommend it. Right. I'll make that motion. Okay, we get a motion to recommend approval. I'll second. Second. Discussion.
I have a couple of questions. Is there any way to make this more targeted? I mean, this is at a global level, and this is now where you're doing that, or what size the project. So is there any way to get more targeted on where we should be?
Or using a business plan. I hear what you're saying, Jack. I do. We go to the staff, look at making it more targeted, this organization of the group policy, and go back to the but the first plan was approved.
Can be a good and really bad thing. It works both ways.
We have priority water bodies listed in there.
Well, for situations like ours, we we're attached to Lower St. Croix, not as adopting it, we're not part of it, but whatever that phrase was, to be separate, but hopefully equal in consideration. And I just want to make sure that there's no leaning toward people that became part of the Lower St. Croix. Physical part. That makes sense?
No,
there's no difference then. between attaching yourself to it, and
No.
having your own plan.
No.
Yeah, there might be one on for that.
So just logistics, assuming this motion passes here, the recommendation is for approval. The entities, the governing entities then have until when?
To 60 days for
60 days.
and it's already. Once we receive about the 60 members right now.
15, yeah.
We need 2/3. The 50.
Yep.
Once we receive 10. approval.
Any other questions? Any other discussion on the motion? We ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Seven, motion carries. The 60 days begins today then?
Correct.
Okay. Very good. And then let's talk a little bit about our WBIF grant funding and the allocation of completing this.
No, I do need to.
Well, I can start with just the general overall. So that FY 21, the group received a combined total of 1.26 million with 793 thousand coming to Metro, 471,000 nationwide. 23, the number increased for the Metro slightly, 807,000 to the 1.27 million. We're going to see a drastic increase in the next biennium. FY 25, we're going to go from about 1.22 to 1.27 million on average, up to 2.045 million. We're going to see a 60% increase in funding, with the Metro receiving about a 57% increase and the nationwide about 65%. I think the goal of the discussion today was actually start the Metro convening process, is that correct, Nancy? Or was this more of an FYI dollar amount?
Well, it was an FYI on dollar amounts, but also what needs to happen is the Metro partners need to make a decision. Last time around, the Metro partners had their own separate convening group and decided to pool the funds together to use them basin-wide. The Metro group could decide to do that again, or they could decide to earmark a portion of those funds to to use separately and not pool together to be used basin-wide. And Tom Dietrich was going to convene the Metro convening group, and he is one of the people in the group that has taken a job and moved on to.
Another one from the States.
I know. And so he is not able to convene the Metro convening group. And so I don't actually think that the Metro partners have decided yet on a process. We either need one of the Metro partners to step up and say, yes, we will convene the Metro group. I know the suggestion was made that Bowser could convene the Metro group as well. So we just need.
I have a little update on that.
Okay.
That's from our Metro Live meeting as well.
Sure.
And what Marcy said is that she talked about staff disruptions that we talked about, but they thought they could get something together in mid-December, but if we can't, it will be January. So that's when our convening process will probably take place.
Is in January?
Well,
Okay.
December 15th or
Okay.
somewhere around that middle part of December or January.
Okay.
Is there a timeline for the allocation?
Well, as I said, our goal would be, we can't receive the funds for July 1st, 2024. So I think those timelines would be perfectly. Our goal would be next summer or this meeting, we're bringing forth that annual plan of work. It includes the FY 25 budget funding. For staff wise, I think if you have something done first quarter of 2024 would allow staff that time to work on plan of work for second or third meeting.
The end date for the 24-25 funding is 27.
Yep, all 31/2027.
And there's new money that might be available to us.
12/31/2025.
Okay, that's pretty short. Okay. The projects have to be ready to go.
That's what I asked the partners in that last steering committee, but don't come with a wish list, and what might want to come with a list of projects.
very successful pooling our funds. I think we've done some good projects as, we've talked about. And I think, personally, I think the projects that we funded, we've not worried too much about where they were occurring, but whether they were shovel ready and could be completed on schedule and serve the entire lower St. Croix. So, so the direction you're looking for today from us then are you looking for any specific discussion?
I don't think so. I think it's more so to inform you all of the fact that this process is happening. Yeah.
Is the group okay with Bowser doing that meeting, or someone else locally that wants to step up? They will do that group. I don't like this for 2 times, but I think for the meeting, Bowser. Let's partner together and move forward.
Second.
Second one, no, for
First
sure.
one's very long.
Anybody object to Bowser or us requesting Bowser to lead that?
No, I didn't hear that from Marcy, but that was, the person left was from Bowser.
Tom was from Washington County.
No, Washington.
So Washington County was going to convene, and since Tom has moved on and they haven't rehired that role yet, then they're short-staffed.
Yeah, well, we have a board meeting on this. I'm with Washington County, so yeah, I mean, I think we're have less capacity than we would have. Interact with them, you did a fantastic job. So that, but I think the metro folks there's been a few conversations, but no decision on who. So I think that will happen here in the next month. January is probably the most realistic when it would happen. Sure. Yeah, and to clarify too, and talking about what that means to convene is really just being that someone's helping us to be the facilitator of the conversation and make sure everything gets excited. People here who've done it during last metro round too. And again, it's something that we've offered, as Bob has staff the last several times. Like, if you want us to be the one that coordinates it, we can do that to support them.
So what I'm hearing from this group is there would be no objection to Bowser convening that group and getting it so that we can get the information we need in a effective way. Okay, anybody object to that? Other business?
One thing I'd like to. We have a member today who I think. Retiring from the conservation plan, Sandy. Last meeting.
Oh.
Thank her.
Thank you.
We've never done this formally. So, yeah, you've been here for every meeting, and just appreciate your dedication, service, being part of some of the projects and the work that has been done. You should be very proud. So, plans for retirement.
Yes. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Something. Yeah.
Any other business?
The suggestion was made, and I will look into if the Forest Lake City Hall or City Center is available for maybe our January Policy Committee meeting for some of those southern partners who find it a little hard to get in the car and drive up here to Wyoming. Maybe Forest Lake is ever so slightly closer.
It's only 3 or 4 miles.
I know it's really not very different, but there's kind of a gap between there, and then by the time you get down to Stillwater, it's a little hard to find meeting space in between the two.
Anything from those joining us remotely? Any comments at all? We haven't had any discussion about Jennifer Hahn's position and where we are with that. That's still part of our work plan.
Yeah, I can somewhat respond to that. And so with Jennifer's resignation, it seemed like to actually be a really good opportunity, especially kind of how we're going to funding in the near future, and trying to kind of reimagine what that position is. But work with Jen's position with work. Joel Larson, who was with University of Minnesota Extension, was on the call, but apparently had to jump off, or was with us, but apparently had to jump off. And so the A1 subcommittee has reconvened, and overall there's a general consensus that we're interested in being able to continue the relationship as having the agronomist be part of University of Minnesota Extension, being an embedded agent for us. So Joel just sent out a somewhat revised position description, and the subgroup is going to be getting together again to kind of look at that position description, talk about other kind of wishes and dreams for that position. Right?
One thing we were discussing, 100% correct. One other thing we've been working on, theory control, myself, followed the process of rolling out also a bunch of soil health money that was brought through the state this year. We did a big RFP with NRCS funding, which is great. So we have a lot of soil health funding coming out through the state level also from apply for it. And so we're kind of trying to mirror those two out. I mean, there's some funding for 4 to 6 year staff positions that we can look to apply for also. So trying to get more time for the soil health. We're trying to work the two of those together, but we are moving forward with it.
Did Jen leave because of money, or was it career building?
I think it was a career building opportunity. It was a similar opportunity that had come up prior to her going after this job. And so there was definitely a piece of that, and being able just to be where the policy is being made, right? It was a promotion, but most definitely she is going to miss field day. She's going to miss working with these farmers day to day. It's something new for her, so I think she's excited for it. I've heard that she's just been in tremendous amounts of meetings thus far, but we're actually going to see her this week because she's presenting at Bowser.
I think she set up, I mean, such a great structure though, that whoever we hire into the position is really, they're not going to have to do that heavy lift of starting all of these things from scratch and all the relationships.
She really did leave things in a really nice place. And one of the things that I thought was super cool is that so last year she hit the ground running. She was organizing all of these field days, all the events. That's a really heavy lift, especially stepping into a position. This year, most of the partners ran the events, and we were just able to support them. So even just, I saw her very much as a confidence builder and cheerleader for the local staff, and be like, yeah, no, you've got this. Like, I helped, kind of set things off, but you're up to continuing it on, and you've got this. So
I think it helps to have that connection with.
Yeah.
That was our last initially. We still want that pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah, to that point you brought up, Jackie, but it seems like from our organization's perspective, this is a positive. This partnership with the University of Minnesota. Are people kind of checking on with the University of Minnesota, particularly administration, that in tough times maybe needs to support this position, just to make sure that they are making it.
And what Joel has mentioned at previous meetings is that he's very much interested in being able to make this work, in that it can serve as a model for extension in other areas, really having somebody who is there on the ground working with local landowners and having the autonomy to do so. So yeah, he's very much interested in trying to make it work, but he also recognizes, he's like, if there are things that he's like, we're really trying to play to extension strengths. And in the end, if there's something that you guys need that we can't provide, we understand that that's what it needs to be, but they're very much at the table.
Extension's hiring process is kind of wonky.
extension, the University of Minnesota's hiring process is kind of wonky. I always tell, I recently told Angie the story about when I first interviewed for this position. I was used to, I worked at the U for 10 years, so I was used to university timelines. And within a week and a half after interviewing, I had a job offer. I'm like, no, wait, I'm not ready. Like, I'm not used to this process. The university hiring process is very long. It is very long. So that is one of the thoughts, but their reach is also very wide as well.
So how long will it take to get
I think we're
person in
hoping,
place and this extension working on that right now?
yes, they are. And I think we're hoping by the end of first quarter, right?
Well, very first quarter, we'll have the draft job description for the quarter around the day one stuff for the.
Yep.
Days on leave right now, once Jay gets back, is a month, we'll be going back to presentation.
Yep.
First year, or early part of the first year.
Because there's a lot of opportunity within that position to be working during that first quarter.
It is that is prime outreach time with farmers for sure.
Okay, good. Appreciate the update on that.
Yeah, sorry, but I should have included that in.
Any other business? Otherwise, I think we're set to adjourn.
All right.
I'll make that motion.
Got a motion, second to adjourn. Aye.
Hey, we didn't even run out of Wi-Fi. Got done in time. Right. Bye, everyone.